2 minutes into my lunch break, I was halfway through wrapping my turkey sandwich when I heard Janice's voice crackle over the intercom. "Riley, shop floor now." That was all she said. No please, no explanation, no softening it. Just that clipped tone she used when she wanted everyone to know who had the power. I froze with the foil still crinkled in my hands. For a second I honestly hoped I imagined it, that maybe she'd called someone else, but when I looked up, every head in the break room had turned toward me. A couple people stopped chewing. Someone actually winced. I stood up slow, sandwich still in my hand, and walked out while the room stayed dead quiet behind me. The warehouse floor felt wrong the second I stepped onto it. Too still. Forklifts parked, conveyors paused. The line crew wasn't working, just standing around in loose clusters, eyes forward. That's when I saw the projector screen set up against the shipping dock door. Already on, already bright. A blue slide glowed against the steel, title stamped across it in bold black letters. Riley's Vendor Satisfaction Tracker. I stopped mid-step like I'd hit an invisible wall. Janice stood at the front, squared shoulders, chin lifted, that tight little smile she got when she thought she was about to make a point. There were at least 25 people gathered. Warehouse guys with crossed arms, a couple of admin clerks clutching clipboards, even 2 drivers who must have just walked in off a run. "Glad you could join us," Janice said, not even bothering to look in my direction. She clicked the remote. The next slide popped up, a screenshot of one of my Excel files. "This," she said, sweeping her hand across the screen like she was unveiling a prize, "is what payroll dollars are buying us." Another click. Birthday reminders, preferred palette types. A note that said, "Carlos hates shrink wrap, use twine, back injury." Another one right under it. "Ken's son starts radiation Monday. Offered to delay Poe if needed." She didn't slow down, didn't hesitate. "Emotional Klingons," she said, lips curling. "That's what I call them. Useless fluff." A few people shifted uncomfortably. Someone let out a short laugh that died almost immediately. No one looked at me. My fingers tightened around the sandwich without me realizing it. She kept going. Slide after slide. Riley's secret vendor feelings folder, she called it, like it was some embarrassing diary. A waste of company time, and let's be honest, kind of creepy. She landed on a page listing offhand compliments vendors had left over the past year. One line was highlighted. "Only reason I still deal with rapid parts is Riley. She remembers stuff." Janice rolled her eyes hard. Not anymore. She turned to the IT guy standing by the terminal. "Go ahead, click. 1 window, 2 clicks, delete, trash bin." Empty, gone. He hesitated just a fraction of a second, then did exactly what she said. Janice brushed her hands together like she'd just wiped crumbs off a counter. "Let's all stick to logistics, shall we?" I stood there frozen, sandwich still half wrapped in foil, arm not even lowered. Nobody spoke. Not me, not them. The screen kept glowing. Janice kept talking, her voice filling the space, but it sounded far away. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. Still stiff, I pulled it out without thinking. Caller ID, Dana Foley, Titan Auto Supply. My stomach flipped. Titan now. I turned on my heel and walked straight out through the dock doors without a word. My hand was shaking as I answered. Riley speaking. "Wow, that was brutal," Dana said, calm and even. "I was hoping to catch you after hours, but honestly this timing's better." I glanced back through the glass. The slide was still up. Janice was still holding court. "Yeah, timing's something," I said. Dana didn't waste time. "Let me be direct. We've been watching how you manage vendors at Rapid Parts. The notes, the responsiveness, the way people keep talking to you, that's rare. We know those retention numbers aren't an accident." I stayed quiet, my mouth dry, heart starting to pound for a reason that had nothing to do with humiliation. "That circus in there," she continued, "that was a gift. A public announcement that your skills are being wasted. You've just been cut loose." I leaned against the concrete wall outside the dock, staring at the chipped yellow curb paint. "You want to talk more?" she asked. I cleared my throat. "Yeah. I've got a moment." "Good," she said, "because I think you're going to like what I have to say." She explained that Titan had been losing ground with a few tough shops, ones that had drifted to Rapid Parts. But when they asked why, those shops didn't name pricing or shipping. They named me, not Rapid Parts, you. She told me they'd quietly surveyed accounts and found that half of them were only sticking around because of me. Not systems, not contracts, me. "And now," she said softly, "you're finally untied." We want to talk, really talk, no politics, no strings. I kicked a pebble into a puddle near the dumpster. You offering me a job? I asked. I'm offering you a seat at the table, she said. We don't babysit, we do impact. I looked down at the foil crumpled in my hand, the sandwich warm and useless. Okay, I said, I'm listening. She gave me enough details to know it was real. Director level, vendor development, full autonomy. Pay wouldn't be an issue. Keep this between us for now, she said. HR will reach out, but I'll follow up myself. We hung up. I stood there another second, jaw tight, fingers clenched but steady. Not just angry, finished. I tossed the sandwich into the trash and walked back inside without looking through the glass. When I first started at Rapid Parts, I sat in the back corner of the admin bullpen, wedged between a supply rack and a vending machine that never worked. On paper, my title was Inventory Scheduler. In reality, it meant babysitting tracking numbers while people yelled about late shipments. Janice barely acknowledged me. When she did, it was clipped. Follow the script, don't improvise. First time I flagged a mislabeled order, she told me, we don't do hero moves here. Root it and move on, so I did. But I also started writing things down. Not in the system. In a spiral notebook I kept hidden in my drawer. It started small. Jules called twice in 1 week about copper fittings shipped in bags instead of boxes. So I wrote, Jules boxed fittings only. Bag leaks. A shop in Bakersfield complained their truck always arrived after the dock closed. Bakersfield, no arrivals past 2:15. I kept logging. Every repeat complaint got a tally mark. Patterns started showing up. Same SKUs, same drivers. One vendor called to thank us after a pallet fix. Said, don't know what changed, but it arrived wrapped how we like. I said, could be luck. He said, keep it up. I leaned in after that. When a supplier mentioned his wife's surgery, I noted it. Followed up a month later. He went quiet, then said, you remembered that? 2 weeks later, he tipped us off on surplus inventory. Saved money. I never showed Janice the notes. She would have killed it instantly. Control was her religion, but vendors started calling my extension directly. Skipping the generic inbox. By quarter end, I had pages of handwriting. Freight schedules improved. Renewals came early. Pallet types got fixed without meetings. A condolence note about a dog turned into a contract renewal. None of it flashy. None of it loud. I kept writing. Every shift, every call, every small human detail the system ignored. No announcements, no slides, no applause, all of it stayed quiet. To the floor crew, I was just the girl who talked too much on vendor calls. A couple of the warehouse guys started calling me vendor whisperer. At first, it was a joke. Then one of them came by my desk with a soda and said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. These orders don't suck as much lately. I smiled, didn't explain. Meanwhile, Janice started sniffing around. She called me into her office one afternoon, arms crossed, that look on her face like she just stepped in something. You've been popular lately, she said. I stayed quiet. She tilted her head and added, we don't pay schedulers to play pen pal with contractors. This isn't summer camp. I just looked at her. She leaned in. Quit the cheerleading. I nodded, understood. Then went back to my desk and kept writing anyway, just quieter. I stopped using sticky notes. Moved everything to a private spreadsheet I kept on a flash drive. Backed it up to my home laptop every weekend. My desk stayed clean, no more paper trails, but the results kept stacking. A tire chain from Colorado added 2 more routes. One shop that had ghosted us for months suddenly sent over a Christmas gift basket with a card that said, thanks for not being corporate robots. I didn't need a plaque. I didn't care if the numbers showed my name. I just liked seeing things work. Behind the curtain, off the record, I was making Rapid Parts better. And Janice hated that more than anything. 2 weeks later, they pulled us all into the conference room for the quarterly ops meeting. Everyone from logistics, admin, receiving, packed in tight with fold-out chairs and those tiny water bottles they only brought out when corporate showed up. Janice stood off to the side near the wall, arms crossed, face stiff. The regional VP, Jeff something, clicked through a half-dozen boring finance slides before landing on the one that lit up the room. Vendor retention and satisfaction. Q2 highlights. The chart was a clean, fat curve going up. 42% increase in vendor contract renewals. Calls answered in under 1 minute. 3 vendors rooped it at longer terms with 0 discounts. Jeff grinned like he had typed every email and smoothed every shipment himself. He said, "Whatever's happening in this division, keep doing it. This is Besting-class performance." I didn't move, but the look started. One by one, the heads in the logistics section turned. Not dramatic, just enough for me to catch it. A chin dip, a side glance. One guy smirked and tapped his pen on his folder twice. Real casual. They knew. Janice didn't clap. She just stared dead ahead like the numbers insulted her personally. When the room emptied out, I ducked into the break room to get some water. Didn't even hear her coming behind me. "Don't let it get to your head," she said, right by the coffee machine. I turned around slowly. She was holding a file folder, thick one, stapled tab on the side with my name. "You're not scalable," she said flat. "You're a one-woman pep rally. That's not strategy." I didn't blink. She held the folder out. "Executive wants a breakdown of your engagement activity for the past 12 months. Everything, vendors, calls, any contacts outside standard scheduling. They want full visibility." I took it. Didn't say a word. She added, "This isn't a compliment." I nodded once, didn't sound like one. Then I turned and walked out. No fight, no speech, just the folder in my hand and every instinct in my body screaming, "They're coming for you." I didn't waste time. The second I got that folder home, I cleared off the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and started building. 3 straight weeks of late nights, dinner at the desk, highlighter caps in my teeth, eyes burning from screen glare. I pulled every call log, every shipment tag, every vendor response I could get my hands on without triggering the security system, lined it all up, clean, precise. One graph showed the spike in early renewals. Another tied part return rates to the packaging changes I'd pushed through behind the scenes. I built trend lines with timestamps that matched exact phone calls. One call, one change, one contract locked. I included vendor quotes too, not the sugar-coated ones, the real stuff. "Only reason I'm still here is Riley. She actually knows our dock hours. Somehow she remembers our dog's name. Nobody else does. I didn't need to name drop. I didn't exaggerate. I just showed what happened. On a gut level, I already knew what was coming. But I still thought maybe the work would speak for itself. I turned it in on a Monday. Hard copy, spiral-bound, color-coded tabs, one clean PDF version uploaded to the project drive. I handed it to Janice myself. She didn't even flip it open, just looked at the cover and said, "I'll review this." That was it. No thank you, no comment, not even a nod. Next morning, I came into a calendar invite, mandatory training. Vendor comms strategy host Janice. Duration, 1 hour. Location, confess, room B. I knew right then. I walked in and sat near the back. Half the logistics staff was there. She started the session like it was a lecture. Slide deck already up. First slide read, Vendor Attachment Syndrome, How Soft Skills Distract from Logistics. My chest locked up. Next slide, screenshots of my report. Graphs pulled out of context. Quotes circled in red like a bad school paper. She didn't say my name, but everyone knew. She clicked through the whole thing, mocking each piece. "This one writes cards when dogs die," she said, fake smile plastered on. "I'm sure that's real scalable." Someone let out a quiet chuckle, I don't know who. My face was hot, hands curled under the table. Janice kept going. "This is what happens when you confuse support roles with social work. We're not here to be liked. We're here to move parts." Final slide. New focus. Hard logistics, not soft sentiment. Then, like it was a joke to her, she said, "We'll be deleting the original file. No need to archive fluff." She opened the shared drive, found the PDF, my whole month of work, right there in front of everyone. Click delete, then emptied the trash. No backup. No thanks, just erased. I stared straight ahead. I couldn't trust my voice. I couldn't even look up. 3 weeks for what? Then my phone buzzed. I glanced down. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. I slipped out the back of the room without a word, heart slamming in my chest. The second I cleared the door, I picked up Riley speaking. "Hey," the voice said, clear and calm. "It's Dana Foley just checking in. You got a sec?" "Yeah," I said, stepping out into the hallway. "I've got a sec." Dana didn't waste time. "We're ready to move," she said. "Director of Vendor Partnerships, Titan Auto Supply, you'll own the department. Full autonomy, no micromanagement, no red tape." I leaned against the wall just past the fire extinguisher. Fingers tight around my phone. She kept going. 500,000 base, not including bonuses. Health full match, 401k. Whatever office setup you want. You start Monday if you say yes right now. I stared at the ceiling. One of the tiles was cracked straight through the middle. Riley, she said, I'm in. I said, good. HR sending over the paperwork in the next 5. It'll hit your inbox. 2 minutes later, the email came through. Offer letter, SN portal. I didn't blink. I didn't reread. I signed it. Done. I pulled in one deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and walked back into that conference room. Janice was still mid-sentence, clicking through her little slideshow like nothing had happened. And this is why standardizing communication templates will reduce. I raised my hand. Hold up, I said loud and clear. She froze. Everyone turned. I stepped to the front. Not rushed, not shaky, just calm, focused. The heat in my chest had burned off. All that was left was steel. I won't be needing the templates, I said, or this training or anything else from Rapid Parts. Dead silence. I held up my phone, screen glowing with the Titan contract, signature line right at the top. Effective immediately, I'm resigning. Titan Auto just brought me on as Director of Vendor Partnerships. Janice opened her mouth, but I cut her off. Contract signed. Terms are locked. You don't own my nights anymore. The logistics guy near the window let out a breath like he'd been holding it for a year. Janice finally found her voice. We need to discuss exit protocols and knowledge transfer. We won't, I said, cutting her off again. You made it clear how much you value what I know. You deleted it, remember? At that moment, the CEO, the one who never showed up unless things were burning, slipped out the back door without a word. Janice looked toward him like he might save her. Too late. I turned, nodded once at the team, and walked out. No drama, no tears, no apology, just clean exit. First day at Titan. The front desk woman greeted me by name before I even introduced myself. The hallway was lined with vendor photos, thank you cards, frame notes, real ones. My desk already had a nameplate. Riley Moore, Director. They even stocked my cabinet with my favorite protein bars. Somebody had done their homework. I sat down, opened my laptop, and smiled. For the first time in years, I wasn't bracing for impact. I was finally where I was supposed to be. Day 1 at Titan, I had no accounts, no history, no leverage, just a blank slate and a hell of a salary to justify. I spent the first 48 hours buried in files, skimming old contracts, reading complaint logs, highlighting gaps in delivery reports. Titan had decent bones, but no personal connection. It was clean, efficient, and cold. I didn't chase anyone, didn't send a single, hey, I left Rapid Parts message, but 4 days in my office line rang. Riley, the voice said, it's Kenny, you probably don't remember me. Tire chain out of Sacramento. I smiled. Kenny, how's your knee? You were waiting on surgery last we talked. He laughed full-in, knew you'd remember. So you're not at Rapid anymore? Nope, I said, Titan now, day 4. He didn't hesitate, then I'm switching. The last 3 orders were wrong, nobody fixed them, I'm done. That was the first. By the end of the week, I had 5 more calls. Guy from the ice distributor in Fresno, the one who used to hate how we packed his evaporators, said, someone told me you moved. I figured, hell, maybe now I'll get my parts wrapped the way I asked. I brought him on the same day. Then it picked up speed, a hydraulic shop in Reading, an equipment service in Reno, and one of the Arizona diesel guys. All called within 2 weeks. I didn't pitch. They asked for the contract link themselves. It was word of mouth, not mine, theirs. They were done being ignored, and they were hungry for someone who remembered the little stuff, the way I always had. By week 3, Dana popped her head into my office and said, you got a minute closer. I raised an eyebrow. That's what the team's calling you, she said, grinning. Our numbers are exploding, and nobody can figure out how you're doing it without a single outbound call. I just shrugged. I listened when no one else would. That's it. Meanwhile, I started hearing whispers about Rapid Parts. Vendors who didn't call me said their new rep was emailing them with sloppy intros, calling them the wrong name, referencing dogs that had died 2 years ago, or congratulating one guy on his retirement. He wasn't retired. He was recovering from heart surgery. Guess who was writing those scripts? Janice. She'd been forced into vendor outreach after I left, but she didn't have the relationships. All she had were leftover notes from my deleted tracker and half-remembered data she never understood in the first place. She was throwing darts in the dark, and it showed. A vendor forwarded me one of her emails, said this was the final straw. Subject line, Hope Daisy still chasing squirrels. His dog had died the previous fall. I'd sent a card. I didn't respond. Just forwarded the email to Dana and filed it away. I wasn't poaching. I didn't have to. They were walking away from Rapid Parts on their own, and they were walking straight to me. By month 4, Titan's vendor numbers had doubled. By month 5, Rapid Parts started bleeding hard. Shops that had been with them for years were ghosting. Contracts didn't renew. Orders dried up. Word got around that their new relationship strategy was a mess. Tone-deaf emails, forgotten requests, late shipments. I didn't cheer, didn't need to. It wasn't a win. It was overdue. A week later, I heard they shut down 2 regional offices. Phoenix and Salt Lake, dozens of layoffs, logistics team gutted. Then someone from my old crew shot me a screenshot. Janice's updated LinkedIn. Independent consultant, vendor systems optimization. No mention of Rapid Parts, not a single line, just a bunch of buzzwords and fake testimonials. She'd been let go. No post, no announcement, just gone. I didn't message her, didn't click like. I just closed the tab. Then late one Friday, my phone rang, blocked number. I answered anyway. Riley, the voice said, male, tired. It's Gerald, CEO at Rapid Parts. I leaned back in my chair, eyes locked on the Titan logo in the corner of my monitor. What can I do for you? He cleared his throat. I'll keep this brief. We made a mistake. You were the heart of vendor operations. We didn't see it in time. I'd like to offer you a role. Senior level, full autonomy, rebuild it your way. There was a pause, like he expected me to fall over in gratitude. I didn't. I just said, Titan gave me that before it was trendy. He was quiet for a beat, then understood. Click. That was it. The next morning, Dana called me into her office. She slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a contract, new title, new stake, managing partner, stock options, voting rights, full control of vendor strategy company-wide. She said, you've earned this. And frankly, we don't want to find out what Titan looks like without you. I signed it right there. No hesitation. Not because it was flashy, not for the title, but because it meant nobody could delete my work ever again. I walked the floor at Titan that morning. Coffee in one hand, badge swinging from my hip. It didn't look like a parts supplier anymore. Every cubicle had something taped up. Dog photos, sticky notes with inside jokes, hand-drawn thank you cards from vendors. One guy had a framed napkin with a doodle a mechanic's kid sent him. There was noise, but the good kind. Laughter from the support desk, phones ringing with energy, not dread. This place had pulse now. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't trying to impress investors or win awards, but it worked. I passed by one of our new hires, a guy from my old crew, logistics side. He looked up, grinned, and said, best damn call I've taken in 5 years. I smiled. Told you it was better over here. He laughed. Yeah, should have followed you sooner. He wasn't the only one. A few more had reached out over the last couple months, some quietly, some desperate. I didn't make them gravel. If they were good people, I gave them a shot. No speeches, no told you so, just a seat at the table. Same as someone gave me. Every vendor call now felt like second nature. I didn't have to introduce myself or prove anything. They already knew me. They remembered the birthdays, the dogs, the dock hours, and they knew I hadn't forgotten either. One of them said last week, feels like we're back to being human again. That's what stuck. Not the charts, not the revenue, that I didn't think about Janice much anymore. She'd faded out the same way she led. Stiff, silent, and too proud to evolve. But when her name crossed my mind, it wasn't hate. It was a warning, a reminder of what not to become. Disconnected, bitter, blind to the work that really matters. I took one more lap through the floor, then stepped back into my office. Riley Moore, managing partner. Nameplate still polished, vendors still calling. And this time, nobody was going to delete a damn thing.